Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane, where our mission is to join together to create a nourishing, liberal religious home and to champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in our wider world. Or as we say in short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. Welcome to one and all. I want to begin, as always, by welcoming all that you bear with you this morning. all of your unique beliefs and background, lifestyle experiences, your differences, all that helps make you who you are is welcome here this morning. And this includes those who hear me say this each Sunday, as well as those who might be hearing it for the first time today. You're equally as welcome. So thank you all for being here. I want to thank the folks that are in the room for us, in the room with us, I should say, well, with us and for us this morning. Todd Milne is back there as usual, operating our AV, and of course, getting us started with his beautiful talent. Gordon Diddens is going to be our lay leader today. Always great to have you. Thanks for being here. Yep. Michelina Tyree, our pianist, back with us this morning. And there's Deb Jackman, who's going to lead us in our singing. So thanks all of you for being here and for social distancing and helping us normalize our Sunday service as much as possible under these ongoing circumstances. I do want to, well, actually I should say before we get started, you'll notice that our big screen's not up and running yet. We're still working with our volunteers to get enough to be here on Sunday, so we'll be continuing to work on it. In the meantime, the lyrics to the songs that Deb will be leading us in later, you will find those in both the church email that went out and this week's Sun. So just look up UUCS and do a search on that in your email box, and you should have that as well. So is that right, Deb? Did I get that right?
And it comes on Thursday.
And it comes on Thursday, so just a couple days ago.
And look on sermon description, and it should have lyrics for the hymn.
Sermon description, and it should have the lyrics for the hymn, so you can sing along from home. I do really regret having to draw your attention to the unity candle that is lit at the front of our service, and it is lit. We just have a big pit in it, so you can't quite see the flame. But this is the third Sunday in a row we've had our unity candle lighted, which is something we do when we've lost members of our church community. And so it is with deep sadness I inform you this morning that church member Aaron Rowe died on Monday after suffering the debilitating effects of a life-altering heart attack some time ago. Please keep his spouse Dorothy, their kids Andrew and Savannah, and their entire family in your thoughts at this very difficult time. We also have our candle lit in honor of Eileen Starr, a longtime church member who passed away on Friday. Although she's not been able to be active in our church for many years, Eileen is remembered fondly by many of you who've been here for a long time for her tremendous contributions and activity to our church community. So please keep her entire family in your thoughts at this time as well. And I also want to give you another reminder that we are having an online social hour following our service at 12:30, and you can also get the link to that on that weekly email that has the links to the different meetings, Zoom links to the different meetings that we have. So again, if you type in UUCS and look for earlier this week, you should have that. We're not putting the link on our website, it turns out, because it's too easy for people to Zoom bomb it. Zoom bomb, if you know what that means. If you don't, it's okay, but it's not good. So find that link in your email. And then I want to put in a plug for our October 25th service. I'm very excited about it, looking forward to it. It's going to be a little bit different. On October 25th, we are going to have a shared service with another UUCS, the UU Church of Salem, Oregon, where my friend Rick Davis is minister. We're going to have a joint service, and our guest speaker is going to be Irshad Manji. If you've not heard of Irshad Manji, her most recent book is called Don't Label Me. And she's really courageous taking on her own progressive community and challenging us to think more about how we're treating each other these days. And you may also know Irshad. She published a book back in 2012 criticizing her religion, Islam, and calling for reform, which not only caused great praise but also death threats. She's a courageous young woman who really is trying to bring the world together by challenging the people who she connects most with when necessary, and that's where the courage comes in. If you get a chance to get her book, Don't Label Me, and read it before then, I can highly recommend it. It's a breath of fresh air. But that, again, is going to be October 25th. We're probably going to start a half hour early, so you might want to put it on your calendars now at 10:30, which is the time that the church in Salem usually starts their services. I am hoping that we can make it last 90 minutes to hear a lot from her. There's probably going to be a question-answer sort of format, but it's going to be a really unique opportunity. It will be on Zoom rather than live stream, so make a note of that too in order to make it work for everybody and have people in different locations. Zoom is going to work best on that day. So it'll also give you a chance to scan the pages and look at some of the faces of the friends that you've been missing around here. So just wanted to put in a big plug for that. You'll be hearing more about it as details solidify, but I wanted you to get it on the calendar now. So that's going to be, again, October 25th, Sunday, October 25th, 10:30 a.m., and it's going to be a Zoom meeting. So, Irshad Manji, Don't Label Me. All right, with that said, let's take a few moments now to greet one another. Use your cell phone, your email, your text, whatever works best for you, but let somebody who you care about today know that you're thinking of them. And as usual, I encourage you to continue to take time to stay in touch with one another whenever the opportunity allows during the days to come. We're now going to move forward by lighting our chalice, the symbol of our faith, the symbol of our unity and our solidarity, of our openness and our inclusion of our community and our individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, and a light to those in darkness. May it be a flame that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope to those in need, and may it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost, and cast a healthy shadow of doubt wherever it's been found.
For my opening reflection this morning, I'm going to read a poem that was written by my father-in-law, Nelson Ottenhausen. It's called Autumn. The stage is set for autumn's show. The days are warm and mellow. Fall is nature's softening time, turning trees to gold and yellow. with dazzling hues of reds and amber, our browns and shades of heather, gracing the hardwoods of sturdy oaks, embracing the autumn weather. The awesome sight of all the colors painted for us to behold, standing against a brilliant sky are trees of shining gold. Then on a day the trees respond to nature's mysterious call, shedding their dying foliage, the leaves begin to fall. At last the leaves have all come down, and the branches are clean and clear. Autumn lies resting upon the ground, to be born again next year.
Thank you, Gordon. We're now going to have our candles of care. And in addition to another candle for the families of Aaron Rowe and Eileen Starr, I'd like to have a candle lit for church member Kylin Glubrick, who had back surgery, is recovering from back surgery this week. I spoke with her for a bit this morning. She's doing okay, but is in some pain. So we're thinking of you, Kylin. Let's take a moment now of silence, embracing others that you may be thinking of this morning, and wherever you're at, with whomever you're with, you are, of course, welcome to name them aloud if you'd like. Those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world, we hold in our community with compassion. We are now going to have our story for all ages. So I'm going to see who has come to join us today. All right, one of my favorite friends, Winnie the Pooh. Pooh, it's been a while. I hope you're okay. What have you been up to?
Mostly doing the impossible.
Doing the impossible? Well, that sounds like quite an accomplishment.
It's becoming rather boring.
Boring? The impossible boring? Well, what exactly is it that you've been doing?
Nothing.
You've been doing nothing?
Yes, people say doing nothing is impossible, but I do nothing every day.
I see. Well, no wonder you're feeling a little bit bored.
I miss Christopher Robin, too. He's not been to the 100-acre wood for a very long time.
Well, yes, he's been home like the rest of us for nearly half a year already.
How long is half a year?
Well, a half a year is 6 months.
Then why not say 6 months?
What's the difference?
6 months doesn't sound as long as half a year.
I see, it doesn't, huh?
No, I can count to 6 in a very short time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There, you see? But it'll take me a very long time to count to half a year.
Well, I get it. So, tell you what, why don't we just say it's 6 months, and maybe there's an opportunity during the next few months where you could Zoom with Christopher Robin. What do you think?
I'm afraid that tickers are made for Zooming. and silly old dares and neither getting stuck in things.
Well, you're not alone, Pooh. A lot of us are feeling kind of stuck these days.
Really?
Yes, really.
How do we get unstuck?
Well, mostly we're just going to have to continue to be patient for a while longer.
For 6 months or half a year?
Well, none of us can be sure exactly how long, but there's a lot of smart people out there working really hard to help us all get unstuck.
They must be very nice.
Well, they are very nice, and we appreciate all that they're doing. In the meantime, maybe you can try not doing the impossible so often. Instead of doing nothing, you can try to do something.
Something is much harder than doing nothing, especially when you're missing your friends.
Well, I know it is, but maybe you could write a note to Christopher Robin and let him know about all the impossible things that you've not been doing.
But I would need Christopher Robin to help me spell it.
I see. Well, then why don't you try drawing him a picture of something fun?
I like drawing pictures.
Good, then it's settled. I'll bet that Christopher Robin is missing you a lot too, and seeing your picture is going to make him very happy.
It will?
I'm sure of it.
Then I can't wait to get started. Just thinking about doing something to help Christopher Robin feel better makes me happy.
Well, then I better let you get to it. Thanks for coming, Pooh. We look forward to seeing what you draw.
Have a good day.
As we move into our time of meditation, I invite you into adjust your position so you're comfortable. Close your eyes, relax with a slow, deep breath, and reflect on these words by Tim Haley. Amid all the noise in our lives, we take this moment to sit in silence, to give thanks for another day, to give thanks for all those in our lives who have brought us warmth and love, to give thanks for the gifts of life. We know we are on our pilgrimage here, but a brief moment in time. Let us open ourselves here, now, to the process of becoming more whole, of living more fully, of giving and forgiving more freely, of understanding more completely the meaning of our lives here on this earth.
For our reading today, I'm going to actually invite Gordon to join with me in a responsive reading from the back of our own hymnal, number 540, if you should have a hymnal. But if not, that's fine. I think this is a timely one for this season. So I'll begin, and Gordon, if you don't mind being our respondent. Today, the peace of autumn pervades the world.
In the radiant noon, silent and motionless, the wide stillness rests like a tired bird.
Spreading over the deserted fields to all horizons, its wings of golden green.
Today, the thin thread of the river flows without song, leaving no mark on its sandy banks.
The many distant villages bask in the sun with eyes closed in idle and languid slumber.
In the stillness, I hear in every blade of grass.
In every speck of dust, in every part of my own body, in the visible and invisible worlds.
In the planets, the sun, and the stars, the joyous dance of the atoms through endless time.
Rabindranath Tagore. Thank you so much, Michelina. Beautiful. I often wonder what the world would be like if John Lennon was still with us. The title of my sermon today is The Sin of Missing the Point. Little did I know when first planning today's message that it would come on the heels of a national presidential debate that completely missed the point. What was meant to be an opportunity for Americans to hear the candidates' plans about a variety of overwhelming concerns, the pandemic, the economy, racial injustice, healthcare, ended up being about a 74-year-old man who couldn't control his rude impulses and need to dominate the conversation and spotlight while hurling disrespectful insults at his opponent. Listening in was like trying to participate in a conversation with other adults while dealing with a screaming toddler. We were constantly distracted, often missed the point of whatever was being said, The interruptions kept preventing Joe Biden and the moderator from concentrating on making their points and asking their questions. And the interrupter-in-chief couldn't stay on target long enough to make many coherent points of his own. It was a missed opportunity to have a more informed electorate. Although most people can guess who I'm voting for, given the choices, Trump did say a couple of things that I agree with. And Biden said a couple of things I found disturbing. But neither was able to stay on target long enough to say anything to influence my vote. This crying shame is a good example of the original concept of the word sin. For centuries, Christendom has beat much of the world down with its nonsensical notion of original sin. The idea that sin is genetic, something we're all born with, something inherent in human nature, rather than something that occurs in relationship, in the ways that we sometimes mistreat each other. But this silly doctrine is itself a sin because it misses the entire point of what sin really is. Even the Old English word, sign, S-Y-N-N, from which it derives, has to do with wrongdoing and misdeeds, with actions, that is, not genetics or anything else inherently or innately wrong with humans. But the word translated as sin in the Bible, especially in the Hebrew scriptures, more literally means missing the mark. A Hebrew proverb says, for example, sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues. Someone should have read that one to Trump before the debate. The point is, the notion of sin isn't about ontological evil, the idea that evil is a thing or a substance that has an existence of its own that we can inherit, catch, or become possessed by. Sin is about making mistakes and missteps, and we all do. Sin is something we usually recognize in retrospect, with 20/20 hindsight. It's caused by our actions and can be redeemed by our actions when we make amends and strive to do better. There's nothing magical or sinister about it. The concept of original sin was not invented, I should say, until the 4th century CE as one of Augustine's minor afterthoughts, not a large emphasis, and didn't become official church doctrine until it was adopted by the Council of Trent 1,200 years later in the 16th century. Yet, as Erich Fromm, whom himself was Jewish, says, the Old Testament does not take the position of humanity's fundamental corruption. Adam and Eve's disobedience to God are not called sin. Nowhere is there a hint that this disobedience has corrupted humanity. And Herbert Haig, a former president of the Catholic Bible Association, concurs. The doctrine of original sin, he says, is not found in any of the writings of the Old Testament. So let's take the mystery and shame out of sin and start thinking about it in real human terms, as the ordinary tendency to make mistakes and missteps, as missing the mark from time to time. In this sense, there's nothing evil about it. If sin is just another word for mistake, misstep, failure, and such, then it's actually necessary if we're to learn and improve ourselves. In this way, it can be considered another word for practice. An archer can't learn to consistently hit a bullseye without lots of practice and lots of missing. Practice may eventually make perfect, but only if we are willing to learn through our failures along the way and willing to fail along the way. To err may be human, but we should not require divine forgiveness for our errors, especially if we use them to help improve how we do things. The only real sin is not learning from our mistakes. The insanity of repeating the same errors over and over again and expecting different results. This is what makes the devastating fires in California, Oregon, and in Washington this summer doubly tragic, because they keep happening year after year, getting worse year after year, and we don't learn from them in a way that has led us to change our behaviors in meaningful ways. The same is true of the continued police shootings and killings of unarmed or subdued black men and women. When will the authorities learn from this and begin to do things differently? There is much faulty behavior in our society and in our personal lives that we can but don't learn from, and thus keep repeating and ending up with the same unwanted results. When it comes to global warming and racial justice and income inequality and health care and so many other issues negatively impacting millions of people, we keep missing the mark. Again, missing the mark doesn't have to become a major issue so long as we are committed to learning from our mistakes and adjusting our behaviors. The problem, rather, is that too many of us don't really want to hit the bullseye. We're aiming at something else to begin with no desire to get things right. This, to me, is the real meaning of sin, of what it means to miss the mark. It isn't simply taking aim and unintentionally missing the bullseye that we're striving to hit. It's aiming at the wrong target to begin with. Aiming for the wrong thing. It's about focusing on the wrong values and goals altogether. The death of Pat Tillman, the Arizona State football star who turned down a professional team to join the Army after 9/11, is an example of such a sin. Although the military initially attempted to cover up what had happened, claiming he'd been killed in Afghanistan when his unit was ambushed, it turned out that Tillman was killed by friendly fire. An example of just how tragic missing the mark can turn out. How many of us commit this same kind of sin by aiming our rage at the wrong targets in other ways? How many of us demonize the wrong people? And in truth, demonizing anyone, individuals, or groups means demonizing the wrong people. In her book, Critiquing White Supremacy Culture Theory, Ann Snyder, a retired sociologist, takes on Robin DiAngelo's white fragility hypothesis, which is an issue that our religion is responsible for because it was the Unitarian Universalist Association that irresponsibly published white fragility, even though there's been no research backing it up, which is why it's still only a hypothesis and should not be elevated to the title of theory. I won't go into the fallacies of DiAngelo's unproven hypothesis here, which I've already discussed at length in the Gadfly papers, as have many other progressive thinkers. Snyder criticizes it for several reasons, including that there's no research backing it up. But the issue she brings up that's pertinent to the topic at hand is its proponents' compulsion, like other extremist groups, to blame and attack those who are already on their side. It seems odd that the most extreme advocates of a political movement would direct their most vitriolic criticisms not toward others on the far end of the ideological spectrum, but instead to those closest to them, she writes. On the right, for example, the Tea Party patriots criticize traditional conservatives and moderates more than progressives or those on the far left. People on the far left point their fingers not so much at KKK members, but at moderates or liberals who are not doing enough. DiAngelo falls into this same pattern, Snyder says, when she writes that white progressives cause most of the daily damage to people of color. And it's another kind of friendly fire. Another example of missing the mark by pointing at the wrong target. Maybe other progressives are easier to hit because they already care about the issue, but it's still the wrong target. As I say in the Gadfly Papers and have been preaching to you for a decade, according to the United Nations list of social wellness indicators, non-whites in the U.S., especially African Americans and Latinos, are no better off today in the areas of housing, education, healthcare, and employment than they were before the Civil Rights Bill was passed in 1968. This is so because too many in the U.S., including the U.S. Supreme Court, and as of late, extremists on the far left, continue conflating being racist with racism, heart with habit. This is contrary to Dr. King's target of an integrated society where we all hold hands as one people. King repeatedly stated that his purpose was to change laws, not hearts, and he never tried to make people feel ashamed of themselves for some original sin, but called upon all of us to be at our best by doing our best for each other. It may be true that you can't legislate integration, he said, but you can legislate desegregation. It may be true that morality cannot be legislated, but behavior can be regulated. It may be true that the law cannot change the heart, but it can restrain the heartless. It may be true that the law can't make a man love me, but it can restrain him from lynching me, and I think that's pretty important also. Going after allies by assuming they are all living privileged lives, and accusing them of unconscious racism, particularly when coming from other virtue-signaling whites, is the wrong target. This is especially true when so little has changed in real quality of life issues for non-whites, in addition to routinely witnessing the extrajudicial killings of some who were only guilty of driving while black, sleeping while black, wearing hoodies while black, smoking while black, and so on. We also have genuine white supremacists openly walking our streets, often armed with military-style weapons. KKK, neo-Nazis, alt-right, and the Proud Boys go unchallenged, even encouraged by the highest office in the land, while progressive organizations trying to work against these outrages are being destroyed from within by linguistic Puritans who seem to only care about controlling the speech of those who are already on their side. They are aiming at the wrong target. What a shame. What a sin. Extremism on the far right is no better, where some are aiming at the wrong target with real guns. There's been a lot of controversy in our own community regarding Sheriff Ozzie Knezovich's wish to bring Dave Grossman to Spokane County to have his officers undergo Grossman's controversial killology training. Killology is based on some of the claims in his book On Killing, the psychological cost of learning to kill in a war society. It sounds pretty official, and Grossman does have a master's in education degree in counseling psychology. But his book On Killing is based upon the theories of S.L.A. Marshall, who was an Army brigadier general, a World War I veteran, and a prolific author on the topic of warfare. His book, Men Against Fire, which Grossman's killology depends on, claims that only 1 in 4 soldiers fired their weapons during the First World War because of our natural psychological aversion to killing. Killology seeks to help soldiers and law enforcement officers overcome this aversion when facing life and death situations. It should be noted that there are many questions regarding the validity of Marshall's original research. About the time this controversy erupted in Spokane, shortly after the protest of the killing of George Floyd began, I received an email from my colleague, Reverend Davidson Lohr. He told me an anecdote from his seminary days when a student in one of his classes began vehemently criticizing Herbert Spencer, the sociologist who had famously applied Darwin's theory of evolution to the evolution of society. Actually, the person who coined the term survival of the fittest, not Darwin. Her invective was brilliant and unforgiving, Davidson recalls. Spencer had screwed up evolution, science, thought, everything he touched. She sounded like a fundamentalist preacher condemning a heretic to hell. After she finally finished, the brilliant professor, Stephen Toomlin, told her she hadn't yet earned the right to criticize Spencer, especially since he was considered one of the greatest minds of his time. He then gave her a reading list of some books and a bit of time to prepare a proper report on Spencer, further explaining, to earn the right to criticize someone, you must first understand their argument well enough to present it in a way that they would accept as informed and fair. But you have the right, before you have the right to condemn a heretic, you must get inside his or her head and soul and explain why that way of thinking is the one only true way and correct way of thinking, in ways that your opponent would applaud. 2 weeks later, she returned and gave a report on Spencer that he himself would have applauded. Good work, Toolham said. You have earned the right to criticize him. So now get on with that, because he certainly needs to be criticized. As a friend of Sheriff Ozzie, and knowing nothing more about Dave Grossman than what I'd read in the paper and the invective against him coming from those who don't wish to hear a single word he has to say or allow anyone else to hear him either, I decided to dig a little deeper to figure out for myself where Grossman is coming from. I wanted to be able to explain his position in a way that he would approve. Here's what I learned. Firstly, Dave Grossman doesn't think of himself as an evil man, and neither do I. As Socrates said, no one knowingly does evil. It is our nature to do what we believe is right. Grossman believes that he is a good person working to defeat evil, and so do those who ascribe to his teachings. Like a lot of people, he believes that evil exists, that it is an ontological reality that must be defeated by good people. We're fighting a war against evil, he says in one of his interviews. Cops and first responders, military, they have seen evil. They know there is evil in this world. He further believes that such evil is much worse than most of us erroneously believe, because advances in medicine have prevented what would have otherwise been incidents included in the murder rate. Grossman is vigilant against evil and considers it his responsibility to protect the people that he loves from evil. I am my family's secret service, he says. He calls himself and those he trains sheepdogs, meaning that they are the protectors of innocent people that the forces of evil seek to harm. The method of such protection is hojutsu, the martial art of the firearm. Sheepdogs must be prepared to protect society from ontological evil with gunfire, if necessary, and by learning to overcome the psychological aversion to killing that might otherwise prevent them from protecting their loved ones and other innocent people. I think this is as fair and objective as I can be without delving deeper into Grossman's books and videos. And I also think he'd consider it a fair explanation coming from someone who isn't the sheepdog. I hope this is enough to earn me the right to now criticize his thinking. Firstly, I'd point out that if Grossman and his followers and trainees are society's sheepdogs, that makes the rest of us either sheep or wolves. This seems condescending to me and presumptuous. Sheep who aren't smart enough to own and use guns or tough enough to do what it takes to protect themselves and others because they haven't had the aversion to killing others trained out of them, have to be cared for by those who are, whether we want them to or not. But the larger issue I have with killology is that we can't really use guns against forces of evil. We can't really use guns against forces of evil. Guns can only be used to kill other people. The evil Grossman is at war with, that he thinks he's protecting society, that he's protecting people from, and that he's teaching others to fear, is embodied in real, living, breathing human beings. So on the one hand, killology is touted as a philosophy that loves and protects life, but on the other hand, it's destroying lives. So when we routinely see innocent people, or people engaged in petty crimes at most, being sheepdogged to death in our streets after 400 years, because after 400 years we have been unconsciously conditioned to associate brown skin with crime, violence, and ontological evil in our society, we're not being protected. And that's why I consider killology a sin, because it's aiming at the wrong target. It's missing the mark. And in so doing is actually killing innocent people, not protecting them. Black lives matter, and that means they need to be protected too. We don't need to be protected from black lives. But I fear black lives need to be protected from some of us. We saw this troubling mindset in full force just over a month ago when a 17-year-old sheepdog from Illinois decided to take it upon himself to travel to Kenosha, Wisconsin, to help police there protect society from the forces of evil he believed were present during protest against the police shooting of David Blake. A teenager, Kyle Rittenhouse, reportedly told a Daily Caller reporter on the scene that part of my job also is to protect people. If someone is hurt, I'm running into harm's way. That's why I have my rifle. I've got to protect myself, obviously. He was arrested a short time later after killing 2 protesters and has since been charged with murder. I don't know if Rittenhouse or the group of other young protectors that he was with knew anything about Grossman's thinking, but their philosophy is the same. Rittenhouse is the hero of his story and, unfortunately, has since become a heroic figure to many others who are also aiming at the wrong target. Fighting evil by firing guns at real people is missing the point. That's the wrong target. Winning a debate at the cost of one's integrity is missing the point. An ineffective anti-racism program that's based on shaming and estranging one's friends while ignoring the real injustices that continue diminishing the well-being of millions of non-white citizens is missing the point. Protesting injustice while denying free speech to those we disagree with is missing the point. Basing the success of an economy on the growth of the GDP while millions of people have no financial security and diminishing paychecks is missing the point. Lawmakers who gleefully change the rules whenever necessary to suit their own interest are missing the point. A government that demands law and order while thriving on corruption is missing the point. A government that promises to keep its citizens safe while ignoring the destruction of the very environment they depend on to live is missing the point. Choosing Supreme Court justices at the expense of the party's integrity may feel like a bullseye, but it's missing the point by a long shot. It's the wrong target. These are real sins, not because some evil spirit is orchestrating them, but because they are human behaviors that are harmful to the well-being and flourishing of other humans. They are sins caused by some people aiming at the wrong target and thus doomed to miss the mark even when they do hit a bullseye, because they are always hitting the wrong bullseye. But we don't have to continue making these mistakes. We can learn from them and redeem ourselves as a society by doing better, by taking true aim at the right target, human welfare and individual unfolding. Anything less would be a sin. Thank you.
Our hymn for the day is 134. Our World is One World. It's one of my favorites.
There is too much hardship in this world to not find joy every day. There is too much injustice in this world to not right the balance every day. There is too much pain in this world to not heal every day. Each of us ministers to a weary world. Let us go forth now and do that which calls us to make this world more loving, more compassionate, and more filled with the grace of divine presence every day. Amen. Blessed be. Salam alaikum and shalom.